Welcome to our wellness webinar. My name is Erin. If you haven't met me yet, I am one of the health coaches with EWS Network. And hopefully you can see me okay. It's pretty gray outside where I am, but when I turned my light on here, it was just a little too bright. So we're gonna roll with it. You won't be seeing much of me. I'll make sure I share my screen so it's just centered on the presentation. Throughout, if you haven't been to a wellness webinar yet, please know that there is an option to type into the chat if you have any questions or if there's any issues with our technology, with my video, with hearing me, please let me know. I definitely would love to know sooner rather than later. And if you have any questions as I move through this webinar, feel free to type them at any time and I will do my best to get to them either throughout the presentation or right at the end. So today's topic, getting and staying connected, social support for mental wellness. So this might seem a little bit ironic right now, given we're 4 months into a global pandemic in which we are still in some form or another being encouraged to isolate and physical distance from people. And even with some restrictions being lifted, as we all know, it's nowhere near the way our normal life used to be. But it doesn't mean that figuring out how to maintain a social network and connection is not just as important as it ever used to be. In fact, I would argue that it's probably more important right now than ever before, because it's so easy now that there's activities or things we used to do that we can't do or we can't do in the same way. It's easy to maybe let our social network slide. It's easy to not prioritize those social connections anymore. And this is where we might have to get a little bit creative and think of other ways that we can still maintain connections, but we definitely want that to be a focus because, as I'll discuss in this presentation, social support networks are important for all of us. All right, so I encourage you to think through, as I move through this presentation, which was created prior to COVID, but as we move through this presentation, I do want you to think about ways in which you could maybe build or maintain social networks within a physical distance world in terms of moving through this and maintaining connections and still managing to keep those connections that you had prior to and those activities and engagement, but brainstorming as to how we can do that while being safe, while following guidelines, and while navigating this pandemic that seems to change all the time. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. There also, I should mention, was a handout that was posted, I believe, above the registration link for this webinar. So if you don't already have that, no worries, you can always go back to it, or you can access that right now on our Stay Safe, Stay Healthy webpage. It's a summary of this presentation, and it also has an activity that I encourage you to do either throughout the webinar or after the webinar. But don't worry if you don't have it pulled up right now, you can always go back and refer to it later. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop my video here, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so what is a social support network? Well, I want you to consider these questions as we discuss this. So, are there people in your life with whom you feel you can talk about anything with? Who do you call in a home emergency or to watch the kids in a time of need? Or imagine this scenario, you just got a promotion at work. Who will you share this news with? So your answer to all of these questions is hopefully your social support network or your social network in general. So a social network is a community of people who can provide physical and emotional comfort. So this usually will consist of family, friends, coworkers, and others. It really provides a sense of community where we feel valued and cared for. Your social support network should share your trials and tribulations with you. And these connections also take an ongoing effort on your part to ensure that it works for you, that you're nurturing it, but it also builds you up and supports you. So it's a dynamic reciprocal relationship that can change over time. So why is this important? well, it might seem obvious, that we all need some kind of a social network in our lives, because we are human beings, we're social creatures, but there's a few very specific reasons. So alleviating stress, definitely a strong social support system can alleviate stress by having people to share our problems with. Challenges are easier when there's individuals that you can trust in and confide in. Someone who cares about what you're going through and who will listen to those issues that you're facing. And research has shown that having a strong social support network in a time of crisis can actually help to reduce trauma-induced disorders like PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. So having a support network is obviously very protective against certain forms of mental illness, and not even just mental illness, just just having in terms of, we talk about like anxiety and depression or a bad day, it can be very protective against those things. Having a support network can also help give us new ideas and perspectives when it comes to problem solving in our own life challenges. So what I really like to emphasize here is that we are not individual islands. We need each other. Increasing a person's self-confidence and feelings of value. This is also what a social support network does for us. We all want to feel loved and important. Feeling valued actually increases self-esteem, and that encourages healthier choices in our life, which of course impacts our mental well-being. So at the same time, helping others navigate through their own conflicts and struggles can be a confidence booster for us. So it really works both ways. You get that support and nurturing from others, and that increases your self-confidence, and it also increases your self-confidence when you can give back to your support network. And lastly, decreasing feelings of loneliness and isolation. So in general, these support systems can just be a great resource for fun. I mean, you think about when you want to try something new or participate in a new activity, it's much more fun to do that with a friend than all by yourself. Or you're going through something and you just don't want to stew about it, so you call up a friend. Even if they don't have the answer, you're able to talk and chat with them and let off some steam. So without friends or close family, there is definitely an increased risk for depression, feelings of isolation, and loneliness. Overall, we know that our health can be influenced by multiple factors, including your physical health, psychological, behavioral, and social well-being is no different. And there have been studies that have shown there's an association between levels of social support and physical disease, mental illness, and mortality. So essentially, the more social support you have, your risk for certain health conditions decreases. And what this means is, as human beings, we're social creatures. We know that our mental health is not only dependent on the people we have around us, but also our physical health. So you might feel like you have this one person in your life who you can rely on to be there for you through all of your challenges, through thick and thin, right? But when building a support network, it's really important to keep in mind having different people who can provide different types of support, because there's just not one person who can provide you everything. It would be unfair to rely on only one person to be your sole support. And it also puts them at risk for burnout, overwhelm, and can affect their own mental well-being. So when we're building social networks, it's important to consider choosing different roles for your support people. This might sound kind of funny, right? Like you're hiring people to be your support, but it's really something you're going through and starting to think about the ways people in your life provide you different types of support. So for example, you might rely on your parents for childcare, and maybe your neighbor for last minute emergencies, your best friend for relationship advice, etc. So this circle of support should be diverse. And it doesn't just have to be people that you are super, super close with and tell all of your deepest, darkest secrets to. It can also include casual acquaintances, or those you rely on when other support can't be found, such as teachers or healthcare providers. So just something to think about as we start to go through different types of support. And we're sort of touching on this now. As you can see, there's people that you might go to for some really personal issues, and there's others who might provide you support in a situation that's, more superficial or specific to that circumstance. But I really want you to maybe think about, and even better, write down at least 3 people that you have in your life right now that you consider part of your social support network. And after writing those 3 people down, I want you to think about a role that each of them plays in your life. So in other words, what kind of support do you find they offer you? And if you notice that maybe one person is playing lots of different roles, you might want to think about how you could outsource this to someone else, or ways that you can strengthen another relationship in your life to provide more support. And if you're finding you can't think of 3 people that provide you support, that's totally okay. We're going to get to that as well. Just something to start thinking about. So once you have thought about some people that are in your life providing support, of course, you want to strengthen these connections. So this is where you can continue or extend on that list of 3 people that you think of that provide support by making a short list of friends and family members who are just in general supportive and positive in your life. So who do you feel like you want to stay in touch with? That's one important question you need to ask yourself. Sometimes we honestly need to almost set up a schedule to reach out to these people through phone, email, social media, whatever it might be. Because these relationships, they take work, they take effort. It takes you nurturing it on your part as well. And it's often easy to neglect these relationships, but it's like that whole analogy of it being a plant or a tree. You have to water your social relationships in order for them to grow. So when you think about the quality of your relationships, you also want to think about how you share with these people. When you're more open and honest, it's really the best way for you to access support. So when you think about these people in your life, you want to be direct about your needs. Do you need problem solving, a soft shoulder to listen or to land on, or a listening ear? Maybe just a distraction and a good laugh. And you want to show them that what they give you is valued. You also want to communicate your expectations, because so often we expect people to be mind readers, but we don't tell them what we need specifically. And then listening and responding. You don't want to get caught up in your head about what to say next. Truly and intently listening to the person that you are speaking with. You want to ensure the conversation is a two-way street as you ask about their day, their interests, their relationships, etc. Because showing sincere interest builds quality relationships. And then making future plans with these connections to have fun will boost your mood and gives you something to look forward to and strengthens the relationship. So especially now with some restrictions being lifted, it might be a physical distance visit outside, it might be a walk, it might be getting together on an outdoor patio. And then it's a really good idea, or I think goal, to try and make one emotional social connection per day. Boy, that sounds like a mouthful. So essentially all I mean here is a meaningful connection. It can be simple as telling your partner that you love them, or texting a friend and letting them know that you appreciate them, calling up a long distance relative you haven't talked to for a while. Again, the point here is that these relationships need to be nurtured. So now we're going to get to if you don't feel like you have a network in place. If you don't feel like you have these social connections in place, don't worry. It's never too late to start building them. You may not have people that you feel you can talk to right now, but it's certainly worth the effort to find these connections. And this is where we might have to get a little bit more creative than before the global pandemic to figure out how we can build these connections and find these people. And it's really not an easy skill to build on, okay? Like, it's not easy for us to put ourselves out there and to try to meet new people, but it's something that we all need to work on and to do a little bit more of, because guaranteed there's going to be someone you reach out to who also is looking for more support and a social network of their own. So, just start where you are, start small. it might mean that you begin having, more personal conversations with a coworker, asking them about their vacation, their weekend, a little bit more about their interests and hobbies. And then you share something with them, or you become more active in your social media groups and find others that you're able to connect with. So we've listed some ideas here. And then you can also think about maybe the people that you know on, a less personal basis, maybe at your work or at your gym or somewhere that you go. And you can think of or make a list of people that you know more casually that you want to start building closer relationships with. And much of this might be done over the phone, online, or socially distanced right now, but it can still have the same effect. And of course, if you're really struggling, talking to a therapist who can be of support or offer you ideas and strategies might also be helpful. So there are different types of support, like I alluded to earlier, that people in our network provide us. Okay, so we're going to go through these. So emotional support, tangible or practical help, and informational support. And you might find there's people that offer all three. And then there might be a person that offers two or just one. But it can be helpful to categorize the type of support we receive in these three categories. And this is also what is listed on your handout, where there's an assessment table and you write down people who provide these types of support within each column. So emotional support, really quickly, these are just the people that we would turn to when we need that proverbial shoulder to cry on, that person to listen to us, to be there for us, maybe offer affection. They don't always offer a solution, but essentially they hold space for us to, expel our grievances, to talk about anything, just to be that person who's there. And then there's the tangible and practical help and support. And these are the people who might be, or typically are, the problem solvers. So they might help us figure out how to complete a project at work, or a difficult circumstance we're going through at home, help us with a move or something around the house. Maybe they get groceries for us when we can't get out, or cook us a meal in a difficult situation. And then that informational support, that might be a professional that has expertise in a certain area, or someone who shares with us their knowledge on a topic, such as if we're in a situation where we need legal advice, possibly resources for our children, or their perspective if they've gone through something similar to what we're going through. So in life, it's always expected that we're going to take care of our physical needs. So, these are our need for food, nutrition, water, sleep, all those things we need to essentially survive and stay alive, right? Those come first and foremost in the hierarchy of needs. But then emotional needs are the forgotten ones because it's easier to ignore them when they're not essential to our survival. And our emotional needs include the need to feel supported, loved, heard, people who display affection towards us. And like I said, while we survive without our emotional needs being met, we definitely do not thrive. We definitely cannot feel fulfilled in our life without that. So when our emotional needs aren't being met, we might engage in destructive behaviors as a means of coping. This can be things like emotional eating, or drug, alcohol use, overworking, gambling, or engaging in numbing activities like binge watching television, or distracting ourselves, or obsessing or fixating on something else in order to avoid dealing with our own problems. And it's okay and very normal, I think, to not feel comfortable asking for emotional support from others. I feel like it's something that most of us aren't taught. So while we might struggle asking for support, it's important to keep in mind that much of this struggle may be due to the fact that, you might not feel deserving. You might feel guilty. You might not feel worthy of attention, or you might not feel like your emotional needs matter. So often, if in childhood, your caregiver ignored your emotional needs, it might not feel safe to have these needs at all. And therefore, it can be uncomfortable to lean on others. So this is where maybe the services of a therapist or counselor can be really helpful in starting to navigate through this if dealing with emotions or asking for emotional help, period, is something that's really, really challenging. And then there's the practical support. So people who care about us often will give us practical help, such as gifts or money or food, assistance with meal prep, childcare, help moving a house. So this kind of support helps us complete our basic day-to-day tasks and makes moving forward in life easier. And just like emotional support, people can often have trouble asking for and accepting practical support. So one way we can alleviate this difficulty is to maybe start offering more practical help or support to others if you don't already. You know, it feels really good to help without being asked. And you think back to that self-esteem piece and how this offering support is important to building your self-esteem. Just like it's important to offer it, it's also important to receive it, right? So sometimes when we can offer it, it might be a little bit easier to receive it. And you know, when you think about offering someone support, it doesn't have to be a big display. It can be subtle, just doing something for someone you know they'll appreciate without being asked or overt about it. So we have a list here of some ways. I encourage you, as we continue on here, to think of one person that you can offer some practical help or support to this week, and think of something you might do for them. So now this might take a little more thought, you know, during our physically distanced times, but it could be as simple as ordering groceries for an elderly relative, you know, making face masks for somebody you know, or sending someone an ebook you think they would enjoy. So might want to get a little creative and think of some ideas as to how you could support someone. And then there's informational support. So when you share a point of view on any topic, you can develop a better understanding of a situation and different ways of handling it. You know, sometimes we can be so involved in our own set way of thinking that we're not able to consider the variety of ways that we could handle our problem. And it's so easy for our thinking to become clouded, you know, and to get set in our ways, and maybe even stubborn when someone else offers another perspective. So it's really important to stay open-minded to, you know, someone else's point of view. You know, it's sort of that old idiom, you can't see the forest for the trees. When you're in a situation, it's not always easy to figure out how you might want to solve the problem. But when you ask for someone outside of yourself or outside of the situation for support, they often have a totally different perspective. So reaching out to others and, you know, seeing where they might have some help or useful information, you know, and like I mentioned before, this information can possibly be from a professional that is trained in that area that you might need support in, or it might be someone who's gone through that experience. Now, important to keep in mind here, it can often be tempting for some people to want to jump in and solve all your problems for you. So this is where you do want to have boundaries. You know, you want to consider, you want to tell them, yes, I really love your perspective on this, you know, but it's still up to you to solve your own problem, not them. So I want you to start thinking about who you turn to for informational support in your life. This could be someone from your existing support network or someone that you might need to include. So some examples here we've listed. For example, if you were undergoing cancer treatment and you didn't know what to expect, you'd want to connect with someone who's gone through it, or someone who knows somebody else who has. Or thinking about your teenager's transition to high school, you know, you would think about other people who have experience with this. Maybe your child's teacher meeting with the principal of the new high school they're going to go to, or attending an information night, you know, or dealing with an emotionally abusive family member. This is where you might want to consider joining a support group. In this case, it might be online, speaking to a psychologist who can educate you on the root of abuse, or talking again to someone who you know has gone through this similar situation. So when you think about the social support networks you have in place, sometimes you realize that there might be people who aren't suited to what you need right now. And that's where that assess worksheet we've included on the handout is really, really helpful, because you break down the people you have in your life right now for emotional, for informational, and for, your physical support, or that tangible support we talked about. And then you start asking yourself questions about how it's working for you. Is there an area that needs more work? Is there one area that's not being attended to the way that others are? And this changes as we go through our lives because our situations change. So, you might not have people available in a specific area of support that you need right now. Like maybe you have a lot of listening ears, but not enough practical support. So that's where you want to start thinking about how you can find more people to support that current need. And that's why that assessment is really, really important. And then once you assess, you might find you have to adjust. So there could be lifestyle changes like divorce, death, marriage, parenthood. These all require an adjustment to the circle of support around you. Your current support, again, may no longer fit your existing needs or circumstances. Maybe you've recently quit smoking, drinking, or taken on a new lifestyle or behavior change, like healthy eating. So suddenly maybe your weekly outings to the bar or the pub with your friends won't serve your new set of values or help you maintain your goals. And then there's always the need as well for a like-minded community. So you might wish to join a community or communities that you identify with, or make friends with people who share your values. So, perhaps you started to work out, you want to meet more people who are also into fitness, or you found a new meaning in your life through spirituality or religion or meditation. So when you think about finding others who are like-minded or have those same interests, it can help you build a sense of community and a sense of belonging. And then there's, of course, the expert opinion as well, like we talked about. So when people don't have or haven't had the same experiences as you, sometimes it can be difficult to connect on that topic. So you might feel judged or misunderstood or blamed. An education group or professional group that supports you with specialized advice can be really, really supportive and helpful. So for example, it could be something like you've recently found out that your troubled relationships are due to ADHD or some other diagnosis. You might need specialized practical support in that area. All right, so still have a little bit of time here. I wanted to share this short video with you. It's about 8 minutes long, and it's a woman's personal story about how she built a support network for her and her son. As you will see in this video, her son is disabled. So I think this video was made primarily for families with a child or children who are disabled, but the messaging is universal and applies to all of us. I also want you to keep in mind that this video was created pre-COVID. So you will see that some of the activities and ideas that she suggests are not applicable to where we are right now, such as attending dance classes or hosting parties in your home. So you might just want to start thinking about other ideas and ways that you want to build new social networks safely, like I talked about at the beginning. So, some of these activities she suggests you might actually be able to do within your bubble of 10. Or you could think about other ways to create these social engagements while practicing physical distancing. So, some things like right now, being outside, walking, biking, maybe joining a book club that will, of course, practice that physical distancing, or small exercise classes. Online groups, of course, are always an option, that type of thing. And I also encourage you, if you are attending this live right now, to feel free and type into the chat ways in which you've shifted the way that you engage with your social networks, or ways that you found helpful to build social connections in your life. For example, personally for me, in phase 3, I felt comfortable joining a new gym. And that's already given me opportunities to meet new people. And you might have another way in which you've done that recently, or ways that you've built social connections during this pandemic.
What is a personal support network? A support network is made up of people who know and care about you. This may include family, friends, and other people in your community. Having a support network can help ensure that you feel welcome and safe. Barbara built a wonderful support network for her son Zachary in Powell River, BC.
When you join a support network, it becomes a support network to yourself because it gets back to you what you give out.
Oh, sorry guys.
You will meet so many interesting people you want to be with. Your life will be so busy because you have things to do with others who share and who join in with you.
Why are support networks important? They're important because we all need trusting, caring relationships and opportunities to have fun and share our gifts. It's quite simple. We all need a place in our community, and we all need friends.
We all need friends. I need friends. My son needs friends. We need to feel supported by people. Nobody likes to be alone. Being a single parent and having raised 3 children by myself, plus working outside the home part-time, my life was work exchanged with work. There was no time to join a club. There was no time to have friends, maintain relationships, anything like this. So we lived very much in isolation, and I wanted to change this. And when I came to Powell River, I thought this is my opportunity, not just to change it for myself, but also to change it for Zachary. Zachary has people in his life from his support network, and he also has paid people in his life. People who come into our life and wanting to be in our group usually come into our lives because they like us. They like my son. And Zachary picks this up. They are here because they want to be here. They're here because they like me. And this is very nice for him to see.
How can you connect with people? Connecting with new people may seem hard at first. It takes energy and lots of persistence. Being proactive and reaching out to others is an important first step. Barbara started by inviting people to a party.
Come to my party. You want to come to my party, use the word party. And people came, and we have had always live music here. If this was a pianist, if this was drumming circle, if this was last Christmas we have had Celtic music. You know, just bring some people in. Actually, he's seeking now connections. He's seeking out to be with people more than he ever was in his life. And this is wonderful for me to see, because he is not alone anymore. He is not lonely anymore. He is happy. He is very, very happy and wants to connect and wants to meet and wants to go to somebody else's house of the people we have in our group. And this is for me amazing to see how this transformation has happened and what it has done in Zachary's life.
Where can you meet people? How about joining a club or a community group? The key is to be out in the community and open to new experiences. Find people who have the same interests as you. Try meeting people at places you enjoy, like the hockey rink, library, or church choir. Barbara and Zachary like to dance.
I have had this poster cut out of my, this brochure cut out of the leisure program. I've had it for a long time. So I put it up on my fridge and I thought, yeah, maybe I do this, yeah, maybe, you know. And then Zachary over and over said, Mom, let's go. And then I said, okay, let's do it, you know. And yeah, really good results. Now there comes a time when your child sees what you do, where he takes over or she takes over and says, Mom, I would like this. I really feel this is what would be good for me. And he takes on the lead and takes over the guidance and says, square dancing, like in my case. He also wanted to go to the pub to salsa dancing because he likes dance. Zachary loves music, and Zachary likes dance.
How can you get started building your personal support network? Getting started can have its challenges. Depending on the community you live in, sometimes it's hard to meet people and make new friends. Barbara felt the same way, but stayed focused on the benefits to both her son and others, and she wasn't afraid to ask for help.
Ask for help. Ask volunteers for help. They can support you in setting things up. It is not easy, and you will have to dig deep into your own abilities and accept those detours and branch out and say, okay, this does not work. I have to find new solutions, new avenues, and try. It is a lot trial and error, but a lot is also having the goal in mind, your ultimate vision, what you want to achieve. And once it happens, you will find your life has changed, your child's life has changed, you have undergone a transformation, and you will absolutely love it.
Will a support network make a difference? There are many mutual benefits to creating a support network with a person who lives with a developmental disability. Being included can make both the individual and the other people in the support network feel valued, confident, and safe.
I feel Zachary has a good future ahead of him. He's well supported now. I believe he will be even more supported later on, because once he has work and employment, he will meet new people. There will be always new people coming into Zachary's life, bringing to him, giving to him, and Zachary giving to them. And once this flow is established, I think, well, I'm needed less and less and less, I think. I will be in the background, making sure everything is fine. But I have great hopes for my son, and I believe he will balance out quite a bit and will be a young man who finds his way in life, feels good about himself, and can contribute to himself, his family, and the community.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought it was kind of a heartwarming video. I'm just gonna see here. So Carol mentioned that she started, I believe, probably a Bible study with some friends from church. Yeah, Bible study. That's awesome, Carol. Did you do that? Is that virtual, like online, or are you doing that in person in small groups? Yeah, online. Okay, awesome. Awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah, I've actually even noticed my own church has been offering some kind of a book club. I have to look into it, but they're offering a book club that's online and virtual, and changing some of their existing groups already that exist and starting to offer those services or those meetings virtually, or finding creative ways to do them. Right now it's summer, so there's maybe a little more we can do outside while being distanced, but some other activities we have to get a little bit more creative in. So thank you so much, Carol, for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And so, yeah, thank you everybody who's attended for being here. If you have any questions or comments, yeah, feel free to type them into the chat box. You can also email me here. Email address is listed, emclintock@ewsnetwork.com. I also wanted to mention on your handout, which I just want to pull up here. I hope maybe you can see what I'm doing here. So this was the handout, if you haven't accessed it already. And this right down here, the assess your social support network. That's what I was referring to, where you can list your people who provide these types of support that I discussed today in the presentation. And then you would go through and ask yourself these questions, like how you feel about your support network, if it meets your needs right now, do you have enough people in each category? Are you feeling like it's maybe overextended? There's maybe some people you would like to, add in or possibly take out right now, so it's just a really good way to assess where you are. And then also in the handout, we mention another questionnaire, and I've just pulled it up here because it's not included in the handout and the link isn't either. So if you really wanted to do this questionnaire, I wasn't actually able to find a really clear link. So this is the link up here, but you can also feel free to email me if you want me to send you this questionnaire. Essentially, it's 12 questions, and all you're doing is assessing how strongly you agree with each statement, and each statement is centered around support. So again, it's called a multi-dimensional scale of perceived social support. And instead of assessing your support based on types of support, the way you did earlier, like emotional, tangible, and information, you're going through and assessing the categories of support in terms of your friends, family, or other. You know, so there is a special person who is around when I am in need, and you would rate how strongly you agree with that statement on a scale of 1 to 7. And then there's questions surrounding your family and questions surrounding friends. And then at the very end, it tells you here how to score it. So your significant other or relationship, you know, you would add the scores for questions 1, 2, 5, and 10, divide by 4. It tells you what to do for your family support and then for friends. And you can also do it for your total support to add up all the items and then divide by 12. So this just gives you a general view of how strong your support is in each area. So if you find, for example, in the category of family support, you know, you score on the lower side, which would probably be like a 1, 2, or 3, you know, then that might bring you some awareness about the support you have from family. But then you might find that the support you have in friends and your significant other, for example, is really strong. So that might balance out the family support being lower. And this can apply to all the different areas. And then when you add up all of the scores over the 12 items, you know, and divide them by 12, and you find hopefully that your support is strong, then you see that overall you have strong support networks. And of course, conversely, if you find that the score is low and overall you have weak support networks, this is just that first step in assessing and starting to bring about some ideas as to how you can strengthen your support networks. So hopefully that makes sense. And again, it's not necessary that you complete this questionnaire or any of them. These are all optional. It's just one more tool you can use to look at the support you have in your life. All right, well, that's all from me for now. I'm just seeing another item here. Oh, I'm sorry, Lisa, you're just mentioning that you can't see the handouts. Okay, my apologies here. So I must have been stuck on this screen. I'm not even sure how to, here, I think I know how to do it. I'm gonna try new share. There, can you guys let me know if you can see that now? This is that multi-dimensional scale of perceived social support I was just talking about. Okay, thank you, Carol. You can see that. Okay, yeah, so this is the one I mentioned. The handout talks about it, but it's actually not included, I realized, because this lunch and learn is something we would normally do in person. So we would probably have handed it out to you if you were in person here. But I'm just showing you online. There is the access link I have up here. If you don't have time to write that down or copy and paste it and you want to complete it, feel free to email it to me or just search multi-dimensional scale perceived social support. I know it's quite a mouthful. Feel free to search that online and you will find it. But if you can't find it, I'd be happy to email it to you. And then the questionnaire, I just wanted to show you that I was talking about, or actually, hopefully you can see this questionnaire I just pulled up. Or sorry, not questionnaire, the handout. This is the one that was included on our Stay Safe, Stay Healthy page under the registration link. All right, so sorry, I meant to turn on my video here earlier. All right, so if there's no more comments or questions, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm just going to pull up that last screen one more time. So there you can see my email. If you're watching the replay, also feel free to email or let me know if you need any of those links or resources. And thank you again for being here. I hope you got something valuable out of this webinar.